Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified Weekly Edition, where we take up the important articles from the Sunday edition of the Hindu newspaper as well as the articles from the explained section coming from the Indian Express in the past 1 week. Articles dated for today's discussion are listed over your screen. Timestamping for these articles as well as the detailed notes about today's discussion in PDF and Word format are given in the description box. But before starting the first article for the day, there's an important announcement. All the prelims related Compass magazines, which covers the year-long current affairs in the most comprehensive manner, are now available on the e-learn platform of Raus IAS as well as the Telegram channel of Raus IAS. So the first article that we have taken for today's discussion comes from the Indian Express Explained section and talks about the contribution of an important scientist, C Bose. That article talks about the recent study conducted by Tel Aviv University in Israel, which confirmed that even the plants have the power to make high-pitch ultrasonic range noise when they are in distress. For example, when they need water or they are running short of water. This was actually previously confirmed by Indian scientist Jagdish Chandra Bose. Now, when we talk about the relevance of these kind of topics, we can easily find that under General Studies Paper 3, achievements of Indians in the field of science and technology is mentioned for your mains examination. And following the same trend, UPSC has asked question back to back in 2018 and 2019 in this regard. In 2018, they asked a question with respect to Satyendra Nath Bose on Bose-Einstein statistics. And in 2019, they asked the scientific contribution of M. Vishwavarya and M.S. Swaminathan. So following the same trend, today we have created this article with the knowledge and the contribution of Jagdish Chandra Bose. Now he belonged to the era of colonial India. He was a physicist who also later on turned to biology. He is known to have contribution towards the electromagnetic waves and its propulsion. On the screen you can see that this is one of the experiment of Bose 60 GHz microwave apparatus which he invented himself. However, he was not provided any Nobel Prize for his contribution. He was a very close friend to Rabindranath Tagore, one of the another Bengali intellectual before the Indian independence. The basic contribution of C Bose includes that he was the first to contribute toward the solid state physics. He held the world's first patent as far as solid state diode detector is concerned, which can easily detect the electromagnetic waves. And he has even mastered in the microwave range. He is also the first one to generate the electromagnetic signals in the microwave range. He is also the first one to produce a radio receiver which can enable the wireless telegraphy, which was later on developed by many other scientists in the past. The most important contribution of C Bose was the invention of mercury coherer, which was later used as a radio wave receiver. This was utilized by Guglielmo Marconi for the building up of radio. And this is the same technology that we even used today. He is the first person to prove that the plant feel pain and understand the affection. The same research that was recently concluded by the Tel Aviv University. And not only that, in the field of literature, he is known to write science fiction stories in the language of Bengali. Now with this discussion placed, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Indian Express Explained section contributes about the recently concluded treaty with respect to the border of Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. Now the Chief Minister Hemant Biswa Sarma from Assam and the Chief Minister Prema Khandu from Arunachal Pradesh have recently signed a memorandum of understanding, not the final agreement, over the long-lasting border dispute between these two states. According to this MOU, over 800 kilometers is going to be covered, where around 123 villages are going to be swept, which are part of 12 districts from Arunachal Pradesh and 8 districts from Assam. Now, the conclusion says that the treaty is going to be a most successful one in the recent past with respect to the interstate border dispute. So the history started when India got independence and the reorganization and consolidation program from the Union government began. Talking about the northeastern part of India, Assam was the largest province apart from Bengal. After independence, the policymaker had a tendency to bring all the consolidated area under one unit, and for the reorganization, a subcommittee under the Assam Chief Minister Gopinath Bordolai was committed and constituted in 1951. As per the suggestion of this committee, the plain areas of Balipura and Shadia foothills were transferred from Northeastern Frontier Agency, which is the current Arunachal Pradesh, to Assam. And this is the reason which created issues between these two states. In 1954, Northeast Frontier Agency was created as a separate unit out of Assam. In 1972, this NEFA was transformed into the Union Territory status because of its strategic location, which borders Tibet region of China. But the conflict still continued. Some of the tribal chiefs and the communities living in the foothills of the Himalayas in the Arunachal Pradesh area had complained about the unilateral transfer of land to Assam, which happened as per the Gopinath Bordolai Committee of 1951. Going through this important complaint, a high-powered tripartite committee was created in 1979, which included the representatives from NEFA, Assam, and the Union government. But the issue remained unresolved. By 1980s, 489 kilometers out of 800 was demarcated and much of the issue with respect to border was resolved. However, Arunachal Pradesh yet was not happy because it demanded the status which it enjoyed before 1951. A case was filed by Arunachal Pradesh in Supreme Court with respect to the status before 1951. Supreme Court, after 17 years of deliberation, committed a local boundary commission. But this commission could not resolve any dispute. Then, last year, that is 2022, Chief Minister level talks began between Arunachal Pradesh and Assam that ultimately led to the signing of Namsai Declaration, in which 34 villages and their matter related to the border dispute was resolved. And this week, what we saw that the other leftover villages are under the process of being resolved through the Memorandum of Understanding that was signed between these two states. So this was the entire issue and the historical conflict between these two regions, which is going to be resolved as per the recent MOU. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the next article for the day. Now, this article of the Indian Express Explained section talks about the issues faced by the Indian diaspora in Africa. The article talks about the Hakki Pikki tribe, which comes from the state of Karnataka, and how they are facing the issues in the ongoing Sudan conflict. Now, before moving towards the Hakki Pikki tribe, we should know what the conflict is all about. Now, after 2019, there was a change in the regime as far as Sudan is concerned. So the people who were governing the Sudan got the transformation towards the democratic framework. However, two different sections belonging to the defense forces, that is one from the Sudanese army and the second one from the paramilitary, headed by different objectives and different leadership, has now been conflicting with each other on different interests. So there is a fight between the paramilitary forces and the military forces in the state of Sudan, because of which over 50 people had died, and the Indians, especially from Hakki Pikki tribe who are staying there, are under severe stress. Government of India has taken initiative to bring these people back to the nation. Now let's talk about and understand about the Hakki Pikki tribe. Now this tribe the term Hakki Pikki stands for a bird to catch. So people belonging to this tribe have a basic or the traditional job of capturing or catching the birds and selling them for basic profits. However, after the passage of Wildlife Protection Act in 1972, such activities were completely banned, because of which they were rendered unemployed and under poverty. So they shifted to the provision of alternative medicines using the traditions such as Ayurveda, Siddha and naturopathy. And that is one of the reasons they utilize the ingredients obtained from the forest essentials for the generation and the development of traditional medicines. As these medicines are cheaper in nature, they are easily available to the Indians, they are exported to those countries which are poor in nature. Sudan is one such nation in Africa that is not a developed nation. And Indian people, especially from the Hakki Pikki tribe, have been trading these traditional medicines and traditional methods with the African nation including Sudan. And that is one of the reasons they are actually habitating in large number in these countries. Hakki Pikki tribe is a matriarchal tribal group where female holds the major position in the society. As per the 2011 census, their overall population was around 11,800 only. They are the major tribal communities living in the state of Karnataka. As per the scheme for protection and preservation of endangered languages run under the Ministry of Education. This community resides in three important areas: Shivamoga, Davanagere and Mysuru in the state of Karnataka. Surprisingly, despite living in the areas habitated by the Dravidian languages or Dravidian language group, they speak the Indo-Aryan languages, especially Hindi. The mother tongue of this tribal group is Wagri, which has been declared as one of the endangered languages by the UNESCO. With this discussion, please let us now move to the next article for the day. Now we come to the articles from the Hindu newspaper today's edition. The first article has been taken from page number 6 and talks about the recent launch made by Indian Space Research Organization using the PSLV or Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle C-55, where two important Singapore satellites were launched. Now, from the perspective of UPSC's examination, foreign satellites and their names are not important. What is important is the utilization of POEM by ISRO in the recent launch. Now, ISRO has successfully launched the vehicle C-55 from the PSLV, where two Singapore's Telios were launched as a primary satellite, while Lumilite 4 was a co-passenger satellite. Now, the relevance of this topic or this article comes from POEM. Now, what is POEM? POEM stands for PSLV Orbital Experimental Module. This is an experimental module where PS4, which is the fourth and the final stage of PSLV vehicle, would be utilized as an orbital platform to carry out the scientific experiments through non-separating payloads. Now please understand this through this infograph. First of all, a PSLV will be lifted off from Sriharikota, which will carry different stages and the payload. Payload is the satellite which is at the topmost position of the rocket. At the second stage of its maneuverability, three different stages will be separated from the rockets and they will fall back on Earth. They will burn out in the Earth's atmosphere. When we talk about the third layer of this program, PSLV will deliver the important satellite. For example, in this case, they are going to deliver the Telios 2 and the Lumilite 4. After delivering these satellites, the last stage will not fall back on Earth. Now please understand this. In the previous case, we had this program that the last stage will fall back on the Earth or will be assumed to be destroyed as a debris in this space. This last stage will not become debris. They will remain active for more than 6 months in the space. It will revolve around the Earth and will serve as an experimental platform. Now, what experiments will be taken up depends on the benefit the POEM is going to provide to us. This poem will provide platform to perform in-orbit experiments. So if today or tomorrow ISRO wants to conduct any experiments, they can keep these platforms on the space, they can keep these platforms in the space and utilize them to save time and regular launches. So instead of launching satellite time and again, what we can do is utilize this existing fourth stage to conduct the ongoing experiments. This will help in reducing down the total expenditure by ISRO in a drastic manner. The second point is that the program or the experiment this poem is going to conduct is called as Navigation Guidance and Control System, which will help other satellites to remain in their altitude. Now, whenever a new satellite will be launched, this existing fourth stage of the PSLV 55 will help it to remain in a particular orbit and provide the required guidance, so that in future, the future launches or the next satellites are not going out of their particular orbit. This is going to use the solar energy as well as the lithium ion battery, which can help the experiment to function for next 6 months. Now, this is one of the best thing in the recent past from the ISRO, that they are going to utilize their existing structure and the available technology without even incurring more cost. With this discussion, please let us now move to the last article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 9 and talks about the recent findings by the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Health and Family Welfare. According to the findings of this committee, central government has not been able to utilize its central government health scheme to ensure adequate doctor to population ratio in the dispensaries as well as other healthcare provisions available to the government employees and the pensioner. Henceforth, the committee has called for clearing pending bills by the government for the smooth flow of funds going to this sector as well as adequate supply of medicines. Now, in this article, we have two different dimensions. The first one is that we are going to look into the suggestions made by this committee with respect to the central government health scheme, popularly known as CGHS. Apart from that, we are going to look into the report card and the suggestions. Apart from that, we are going to look into the important benefits as well as the beneficiaries under this scheme. Under third dimension, we are going to look into the basics of the parliamentary committees and their basic forms which are there in the practice. So let's start with the central government health scheme. The scheme was launched in 1954 by the first Lok Sabha under Jawaharlal Nehru. The objective of the scheme is to provide comprehensive as well as holistic healthcare facility to the employees and the pensioner. So this scheme targets those people who were working as an employee or who are working as an employee with the central government. Various state government also have the similar scheme where they are providing the holistic healthcare facilities to their respective employees. This scheme as of now falls under the Ministry of Health and Welfare. The benefits of the scheme includes cashless facility to the empaneled hospitals as well as the diagnostic centers, outpatient treatment, issue of the medicines, indoor treatment at the government and the empaneled hospitals, specialized and the specialist consultation at the polyclinic, family welfare services, maternity and child health services, investigation, reimbursement of the expenses for the treatment to the government employees even at the private hospital, reimbursement of the expenses and medical consultation with respect to the medicines under Ayush. As far as beneficiaries are included, so they are central government present employees, former and the existing member of parliament, vice president, freedom fighters, former governors and the lieutenant governors, judges of the Supreme Court, even the ex-judges, journalists qualified with PIB or Press Information Bureau, stationed only in Delhi, police personnel only in Delhi Police, railway board workers as well as the workers and the pensioners of Delhi selected autonomous organizations. So it simply proves that at the majority case, it is the government employees who are the direct beneficiaries of this scheme. Now, according to the parliamentary committee, there are three important flaws that were highlighted. The first is that 22% of the posts allocated towards the allopathic medicines are vacant, while 39% of the non-gazetted staff is still vacant. It means that the number of doctors and the other paramedics are not available with respect to the current demand. The second is that only 73% of the funds have been utilized. That includes the revenue account. That is specifically the salaries of the doctors and the paramedics, which proves that instead of providing the capital investment, revenue spendings of the government is far more. On the other side, if we talk about the capital expenditure on this scheme, it is just 11% of the existing structure. The third issue highlighted in the scheme is that the supply of medicines under Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana is very inadequate and under potential. As far as first problem is concerned, so government has already started employing retired doctors for the filling up of vacancies under these dispensaries. However, still the number of vacancies is close to 22%. So the committee has suggested that government is required to assess the required number of doctors. All the dispensaries under this scheme required across the nation. After that, they should come up with the program. The second suggestion made by the committee in this regard is that all those people who have already been recruited by the UPSC under various programs and under various vacancies should be provided their deputation and their allotment to these specific dispensaries as soon as possible. Now, with this discussion, we should start with the discussion on the parliamentary committees. The origin of the parliamentary committee date back to the British parliamentary system. So we borrowed the system after the independence and adopted it in the Indian constitution. The authorization or the basic powers exercised or entailed by these committees comes from two articles. Article 105, which deals with the privileges of parliament members or the members of the parliament, and on Article 118, which provides for parliament's authority to make rules for regulating its procedure and conduct of businesses. So under these two articles, these committees take their power and their authorization. Basically, there are four kinds of parliamentary committees which are existing as of now. First being the financial committees, which look into the financial matters of India. Such committees include Public Account Committee, which is a very important committee, Estimate Committee, committees on the public sector undertakings. Basically, these are three in numbers. Next come the Standing Committee, which is also our focus for today. Standing committees, also called as departmental related standing committees. They are associated with the different ministries and the departments. Example could be the Committee on Railway and Health. Next comes the ad hoc or the select committees. Ad hoc simply means on the temporary basis. These committees are created for temporary purpose, like the select committee on GST. And the last one is administrative committees. These committees are formed for the day-to-day administration as far as parliamentary proceedings are concerned. Business Advisory Committee, Rule Committees, Privileges Committee. Now let us see more about departmental related standing committees. The total are 24. That means there are 24 DRSCs, 16 in Lok Sabha and 8 in the Rajya Sabha. The composition of each committee constitute 31 members, 21 from Lok Sabha, 10 from Rajya Sabha. However, there is a note of caution. No executive participation. It means these committees are directly represented by the legislator in the parliament. Legislator in the parliament means member of parliament and those who are not the ministers in the government, because ministers are part of the executive, and when executive becomes responsible to the legislature, that is the core principle of parliamentary proceedings. And this was even asked by the UPSC in the prelims as well. Members to these committee are nominated by the chair itself. In Lok Sabha, it is the speaker. In Rajya Sabha, it is the chairman. One committee may work for two or more ministries. So it is not a case that one ministry, one committee. There could be many committees to one ministry, or one committee could have many ministries. For example, the Committee on Science and Technology, Environment, forest work for 5 different ministries. So this single committee work in coordination with the 5 different ministries. These committees work under the direction of the specific Speaker of Lok Sabha and Chairman of Rajya Sabha and take reports from them. They also have the dedicated secretariat for their functioning. Now, what is the significance of those committees or these kind of committees? Well, they provide interministerial coordination. They provide instrument for detailed scrutiny. So the bills, different proceedings, different policies which are made by the government could be scrutinized by these committees. They act as a mini parliament. As I have said, that parliament is nothing but the executive being responsible to the legislature. So they also act as a mini parliament. They provide unbiased opinion, uphold parliamentary principles of accountability. However, the main objective of such committees is financial accountability. So they take on the scrutiny of the budget provisions as far as different departments are concerned. There are some issues also which are associated with committees, which includes that only 27% of the bills were referred to such committees in the 16th Lok Sabha, and this is a matter of concern because it actually undermines the power of the accountable parliament in the country. Major and the controversial issues were totally surpassed by their scrutiny. So some of the important and controversial issues which took place in the last 3-4 years were not brought up to these committees for any sort of deliberation. For example, the deliberation on the Article 370 revocation. So when this article was revoked in 2019, such committees were not consulted. And lastly, the low attendance of members of parliament. So even if the meetings are called, members of the parliament largely remain absent. With this discussion, we now move to the next article. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 10 and talks about an important festival known as Pushkaralu, which is going to be held on River Ganga this year. Now, as far as India's art and culture is concerned, so UPSC has been asking questions with respect to the folk festivals and the local festivals in the prelim examination. So this time we are going to discuss about the basics of Pushkaralu festival that is going to be celebrated this year in the state of Uttar Pradesh. Pushkaralu is a river festival which is celebrated when the Jupiter enters a particular zodiac in a particular month of a year. That is the reason why it is repeated in 12 years. It is celebrated for a period of 12 days. This time Jupiter has entered into the zodiac sign of Aries, as you can see from this table, and that is the reason why Ganga river is going to be celebrated under the Pushkaralu festival. So River Ganga is going to be the river theme this year. When Jupiter exits the particular zodiac in order to enter the other one, last 12 days are considered to be Antya Pushkaralu. Antya here stands for last. And at last, as you can see, these are the different zodiac signs as per the Hindu mythology, and these are the important rivers which are celebrated under this Pushkaralu festival. With this discussion place, now we come to the end of today's Daily News Simplified. Thank you for your participation. Stay tuned for more such updates.